Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Satisfactory. I'm AxionEvolved, and there's been some changes here in the experimental build. It looks like we've got a bunch of new textures on some of the ore. So this melted ice cream here is actually copper ore. So not bad. The iron definitely got another update too. It looks a lot more metallic, I guess. The old ones kind of look like the old textures. They just look like rocks, basically. So it's good to know that they're updating little visual things here and there. So today I want to kind of make some more progress on this base that we got down here. And to start off with that, I think we need to up our steel production. So we'll just throw all the stuff in there, hit the launch button, and see where that takes us. But doing that unlocked quite a few things for us. If we take a look here, a huge thing is these Mark II miners. Now, these, as you can kind of read on the tooltip, these give 120 resources per minute on a normal node. So essentially, these double the output that a Mark I miner does. And this is useful for a couple reasons. The first thing that comes to my mind is our coal power plant that we have out there. That's running on 2 impure nodes with Mark I miners, right? So even with those miners maxed out overclocking, I'm only getting 75 ore per minute on each one of those. So 150 total. That's only about 10 or so power plants that we have hooked up. With a Mark II miner, we can basically double that, right? So now we can have 20. You get about, what, 150 per node with, well, actually, I think it should just be a straight double, right? So straight, like, instead of 30, I'll get 60. Instead of 120, I'll get 240. Yeah, so we might look into doing this to really increase the amount of ore that we're able to draw out. So a lot of different parts that we're going to need, right? So encased industrial beams we're going to end up using for the next logistics, the next tier of logistics. Heavy modular frames are huge. Those are used in the more advanced machines as well. Stators and motors, obviously, just parts that we need to increase our tech tree. Automated wiring. This is what we're going to need for when we throw stuff into the elevator. So definitely stuff we need. The Mark II miner, I guess, is the only machine we actually unlocked. But this is all fine and dandy. But there's a couple things that I want to kind of accomplish today. And those of you who have some eagle eyes right now might see some things that weren't here last time. So if I just kind of pan over here, you'll see a huge pad out there. This is essentially going to be part of the new mega base. So for those of you that don't know, I did a live stream. I think it was yesterday at the time of recording this. So yeah, on a live stream we went through and we kind of built this whole pad, kind of the start of the main base. And let me go give you guys a little tour about what we did. So essentially all this is a 30 by 30 pad. So 30 wide by 30 long. So it's just a big square. And kind of what I wanted to do, I wanted it to seem like this was like a big structure that may have been like starting to get overtaken by the desert, or, you know, I want it to look like it's a big platform that's realistically supported by these pilings or these pillars that seem to like go into the dirt as far as they could possibly go, right? So that's kind of the base for right now, and I'm still kind of deciding, still kind of wondering, like, how do I want to increase I don't know how that just happened. Literally have never experienced that before. I hope my stuff is still grabbable. I think there might be a crate out there. Let's go check and be a little bit more careful. Alright, so looks like all of my stuff is still here. Let me just re-equip everything. So anyway, like I was saying, which is really weird, I'm not quite sold on this design being done. I like the way it looks. I like the way the columns look like they're kind of like going way deep into the earth and really like supporting this structure. And I even went so far as to put interior columns to try to make it look like the whole weight is being supported. But this is still, at the end of the day, this is still just a square, right? So I want to kind of do something to kind of, spice it up, make it a little bit, I don't know, just make it like a little bit more grandiose. And one thing I was thinking, I think it'd be really cool if there was maybe like a huge bridge that kind of, you know, almost like a castle drawbridge, right? So something that kind of comes from this base and goes out that direction and kind of, you know, angles down so that, you know, we can drive vehicles up into this level. We can kind of do whatever. I haven't quite decided on if this will be the actual ground floor or if this will be like the quote unquote main floor where we do all the, you know, all the stuff we might need to do and then we process things on different floors. But some of the things I was trying to think about while I was making this, I wanted it to be tall enough. I kind of mentioned this in past videos. I wanted it to be tall enough that things would go, like things could go under it no problem. So we could easily, I mean, it's tall enough that it should, I don't know if there's any resources directly under it, but we have some nodes like right off of it. But there's plenty of space in between columns under the pillars, under the platform here, that we could run belts and, you know, trains or whatever we might need to run underground if we have to. Like I said, I don't know if I'm just going to make everything at this level, you know, everything come up to where I am. But I wanted to, like I've said before, make it high enough that nothing under it would interfere. I don't want to like clip through anything. I don't want to, you know, I just want it to be kind of clean. Well, I want it to look deliberate while still looking like it's part of the landscape kind of. So I think what I want to do this episode, I want to kind of flesh out this like welcome bridge kind of, you know, entrance ramp into the base. And I think what I want to do is kind of expand a platform out in this direction, keep it at the same height until I get to a certain spot, probably honestly past that node because I don't want to interfere with collecting from that node. And then once I get out to maybe past that node, I'll just have it start angling down. And then that way, you know, if I'm driving a vehicle out there, it can just kind of come up a ramp. So it wouldn't be as, I don't think it'll be as steep as this, but it'll probably be I think that's the 8-meter ramp, right? So maybe, so as opposed to that ramp, which is really steep, do something like this one maybe, a much more gradual slope, because I kind of want it to I want this to be like a big structure, you know, almost like the big grand entrance to the base. So we're going to flesh that out. But then another kind of issue that we have, right, is we do not have the power overhead to really even start hooking anything up in this base. We're generating, I went through on the live stream and I kind of overclocked some of the coal generators to just, I think I put 1 power shard in each of them. And that's given us like 1 megawatt of power, or 1 gigawatt, so 1,000 megawatts, and that's just not enough, to be honest. That's just, we could kind of expand a little bit on what we have, but if we want to really start tapping into the resources in the desert, we need more power. That's just, there's no two ways about it, right? So we got a couple options. If I throw some Mark II miners onto what we have over there, we might be able to double that up and get up to 1,500 to 2,000 megawatts off 2 impure nodes. But there are some coal nodes kind of out in this direction. And I think it's 2, I mean, other than the ones we're already tapping, there's some more kind of over by that little swamp area over there, or the little lagoon, I guess we can call it. And between that water source and that coal that's over there, I think we could generate a bit more power and not have to worry so much about the logistics of everything. So I think first things first, I'm going to try and expand the bridge concept out and kind of get that fleshed out, and then I'll kind of, you know, pause along the way and bring you guys in and kind of illustrate and demonstrate what I'm doing and what my thought process is behind it. So I'm going to get started on that, and then I'll see you guys shortly. So here's kind of what I'm thinking about doing. This is, I'll probably go out a little bit farther because I want this bridge to kind of be like a big part of the base. You know, I want it to be like kind of grand. I want it to kind of match how big this is going to actually end up being. But also, I want it to be like its own kind of big structure itself. So I think I might come out, let me look. I got to think about a transition point too, right? So what I'm doing to evaluate that is, where do I think the most natural kind of transition would be? So I'm thinking about this in terms of, if I were driving, you know, like my Explorer vehicle around, where would I want to, where would be an easy way to drive up? And one of the things I'm thinking is I might bring this bridge all the way out to like here-ish. And instead of having it kind of just slope down, because this is kind of a crappy slope area, I might have it turn into like a T and have one path, one ramp going down this way, because this is a fairly open area. And, you know, we might, eventually we're going to have trains and stuff going out to the other biomes and collecting resources. But, you know, I might also build kind of like roads and stuff. But then off that way, there's the natural transition between this, if we look at the map, right? The natural transition between this biome, this desert biome, and the one over here, there's like little paths up in here that we can kind of go through. So if I kind of have a ramp that kind of comes down this way and this way, this isn't really passable on the ground. We have to get above the rocks here, but there is a ground passage that kind of runs over here. So that's kind of my thought process there. So I'm thinking I'll bring that bridge out to even like as far as where I am now, and then it'll just ramp down on either side. And kind of no matter what I do, I want to make it symmetrical. So I'll bring it out and we'll kind of see what it looks like way out here before I actually commit to dropping the ramps on each side. And then another thing I'm thinking about doing is having kind of entrances up to this main platform. You know, another option, now that I'm just kind of thinking about this out loud, I could just extend this all the way down and essentially have this be like the main highway in the desert, and have almost like on-ramps that kind of branch off in you know, whatever kind of intervals. So whenever we're kind of exploring or whatever, we can get up and back into the base. So actually, let me look at that. That is, I think it's tall enough to kind of make it. I don't know if it's tall enough to breach or get over these rocks over here. But, you know, a great option that we have once we commit to doing this is that we can always extend it. That's not an issue. So I think for the time being, because I don't want this to just be some massive project, you know, before we're really doing anything else. So I think I'll bring it out to about here and drop some ramps every so often, you know, maybe 2 or 3 ramps on each side in some kind of interval. And then we'll see how that looks. So here's about as far as I decided to come out for right now. It's pretty good. I mean, I don't think it looks bad. I made a ramp over here to kind of illustrate, you know, kind of entrance and exit points. And, you know, something I was thinking about while I'm doing this could even serve as like a train kind of highway. This could be like a multi-use, you know, it's six foundations wide. So we could easily have, you know, in and out lines for trains right here in the middle, and kind of have the same concept where, you know, resources can kind of enter this highway and come back to base all in, you know, on the outside. So we have options. I'm not 100% decided on what specifically we're going to use it for, but, you know, other than like great looks. And here's kind of a view from the side. So I definitely am going to put pillars on there. I think that's a really, to kind of match the theme of what we got going on, I think that's kind of necessary. Maybe not so quite as frequent as that, but so in other words, I'll have the spacing more than 2 foundations away. But you know, I'm kind of deciding, you know, if I want to use maybe some of these as well, the frame foundations. I want to incorporate them in such a way that it looks like they'd be part of holding up a structure. So I'm going to be looking for ways to incorporate that kind of stuff, and obviously glass and windows and all that kind of stuff. Plus, I want to kind of decorate or have some kind of decor for the thing itself, the bridge. You know, I could do, I guess, something like, let me get to my hotbar here. If I did kind of something like this, where I put a base down and I put these up high enough, you could conceivably, with power poles and stuff and power lines, you could conceivably make like a faux kind of suspension bridge. You know, if I get this up high enough, and then I just have the wires kind of all kind of coming down at, you know, different places, right? And I can use, I think the, well, actually, I don't know. I don't know if the wall outlets can go on the ground. No. Oh, I need a quick wire anyway. So there might be a way to do that. You know, maybe if I put like a wall down, like an actual kind of wall, that way out. You know, so I just have a wall going all the way down, and then I can have the power plugs be up there, or something. I don't know. There's definitely options. I'm not 100%. I haven't really decided on what I want to do with that. So, you know, there's a couple ways. If you guys have any ideas, or you know, want me to try something out, let me know down below in the comments, and I'll definitely take a look at that. Honestly, when it comes time to do a lot of this work, I'm probably gonna do it on a live stream on Twitch. So check the link in the description below for my Twitch channel, and I would love to see you guys out there. It'd be a good time. But for now, I think I'm gonna try putting these pillars on, and I'll bring you guys back when I kind of have it a little bit more fleshed out. All right, so here's the spacing I kind of decided to go with. It's about 6 foundations in between each set of pillars. So I've only done this closest side just to kind of demonstrate how it's going to look. And I don't think it looks bad. It looks like it would conceivably support this kind of structure. It'll obviously look better once I incorporate the backside, so it's a little bit more substantial. But I think this is kind of the spacing I'm going to go with. The spacing ended up working out to the point where I actually just had one at the end. So there's definitely room for a second one if I have to. And I like the fact that these columns, these pillar middles, I think they're called, they just go right into the sand, right? So they clip through however much they need to, which makes it look really natural, like the desert just kind of, you know, is living around the structure, which you're not going to really get that kind of look in any other biome. So I'm really glad that I'm kind of taking this design choice with this biome and with these pillars, because, you know, if you see, there's actually like houses in real life that are built this way on stilted foundations. So this is just kind of taking that same concept and just blowing it up. So let me go ahead and finish the other side, and then we'll kind of see where we go from there. And here's something I was curious. I was wondering how the pillars were going to kind of clip into the rock. And I don't mind that at all, actually. I don't know if I were to take this out and put like a base. I don't think the base... Actually, you know what? That doesn't look terrible. Yeah, that's actually not that bad. I think I'll actually leave that in the rock, because then it looks a little bit more like with the sand, it's conceivable that the pillar just goes down deep and deep and deep. Whereas when it comes into the rock, by having the base here, it kind of gives it like an anchor point. So I'm actually glad I tried that. So onto the rest. All right, so now this bridge looks a lot more complete. It looks a lot more stable, a lot more sturdy with the backside pylons or pillars, whatever you want to call them, put in. Definitely, I definitely dig this design. I think it looks pretty good, and I'm kind of happy we're going with it for the whole theme. So I also did some over here too. I'm not 100% sold on it, but the idea of having some supports on the ramp sounds kind of cool. And you know, it's really just a matter of how much does this clipping kind of bother me. If it was a little bit more hidden, I don't think it would bother me nearly as much. But I also think it doesn't look that bad. Obviously not as clean. I mean, it's obviously attaching to the underside of the top part of the ramp. So let me know what you guys think. I'm undecided on it, but I'd love to hear your guys' opinion. So let me know down in the comments what you think. If we should keep it, if we should get rid of it. I haven't looked to see kind of what a pillar would look like just going up into it. So that's another option. We can do something like that. So I'll just replace these ones, and I'll leave it up to you guys. Let me see. I don't think it's going to clip up top. No, it looks fine up there. So let me know what you guys think. Do we want to kind of leave the top parts in there? Or do we want to have just the pillar middles? Oh, I don't know. It's actually really hard to decide. So, and then the next thing we need to get going, and this is all kind of long-term plans, right? Aside from power, we need to kind of figure out kind of what we're going to do as far as getting resources to the base, right? So you can see there's just a ton of nodes out here that aren't even being touched, right? There's, I mean, obviously that impure node there. There's tons of nodes over in the middle of our base area. God, that looks, sorry, I like the way that looks so much. And I think it's going to look really cool when we're kind of up higher. And, you know, another option, if this ground floor ends up not being big enough, I can always expand higher floors out more and put kind of just bigger pillars kind of to support that too. So we do have a bit of flexibility when it comes to this. Like, boom, node. There's nodes over there. I've already got that, but there's nodes, you know, everywhere, all over the place. So I think the division of nodes that I'm going to do, I think I want to make kind of like, not an inefficient chain per se, but I think I want to dedicate, you know, like a couple, like 1 or 2 pure iron nodes and maybe 1 or 2 pure copper nodes, just to making items kind of like what we have over there, just filling up 1 storage container's worth of whatever it is for kind of like my own personal use, right? And then the rest of the nodes will dedicate to automating stuff for bigger machines, right? So that's kind of, you know, the long-term plan, because we're going to need these parts to build fuel generators and nuclear reactors and trains and all that stuff, right? So it starts with having a supply of things that are always kind of there for me, and then using the rest of the material to function as stuff for bigger and better machines down the way. So that kind of brings me to as it gets nighttime here. The night is really pretty, but it's also like really dark. So really one of the last things to decide about this whole kind of setup for the base is whether we're going to kind of process all the raw materials and then distribute them to individual machines, or if we're going to dedicate nodes to certain like processes, right? So am I going to say, hey, that iron node is going to be just for screws, or is just a portion of whatever that iron node makes going to get diverted into screws? So I'm kind of leaning towards a modular, like each node is kind of designated for a specific production line, but we'll kind of see how that shapes up in the future. And with that, guys, I think I'm going to end this episode here. We did quite a lot. We kind of really expanded out this base, and I think we're in a direction that's really going to make this look, you know, pretty outstanding once it's done. So like I said, guys, if you like what you saw, hit that subscribe button so you know you can keep up to date with what we're doing here. If you want to catch some of these live streams where I'm doing a lot of this building, check the link in the description for my Twitch account. I don't really have a set schedule yet, but I will post about it on Twitter, so you'll find links to that in the description below as well. And with that, guys, we'll see you in the next one.